line ho uyu line lelo mwana mene mwana wanzeru line ho
line ho uyu line lelo mwana mene mwana wanzeru ukacha mama wa amatengadzaje kusesa pakomo pamaivaje
ukacha mama
early morning
amatengadzaje
kusesa pakomo pamaivaje
magolo
aline
amuyamikira
akuti line lelo mwana mene mwana wanzeru
magolo aline amuyamikira
akuti line lelo mwana mene mwana wanzeru line ho uyu line lelo mwana mene mwana wanzeru
line ho
uyu line lelo mwana mene mwana wanzeru
agire gogo wana madingo namuyamikira kuti na madingo mwana mene mwana wanzeru agire gogo wana madingo namuyamikira
mukuti na madingo mwana mene
mwana wanzeru
simukuna magogo
kalizina
ni malota ine bambo wanga tandisi
ndasalandeka kalizina
ni malota ine bambo wanga tamwalira
ndasalandeka gondo mama gondo une mama mwe gondo mama chalamanda
tafera moenda we gondo mama gondo une mama mwe gondo mama chalamanda utafera moenda we.
OYTV.
Thank you and welcome to another session on OY Media Scotland. My whole name is Samuel Oludare Yorokon and I'll be taking the news highlight for today. If you're in the United Kingdom or any part of the United Kingdom, either England, Wales, Scotland, or Northern Ireland, there's an update on the coronavirus restriction, both in London, far back there in England, and of course right here in Scotland. Things are changing, especially from tomorrow, the 19th of July 2021, and we will take that. We also have the public's opinion about what is happening in London and here in Scotland about that lifting of restriction. So I'll take the one for Scotland first, and then we'll relate that to what is happening down in London. Right, coronavirus, Scotland, we move to level 0 conviction restriction. First Minister Nicola Sturgeon says Scotland will move to the country's lowest level of restrictions, but as one people, we are easing the restriction next week, but we are not abandoning them. The announcement setting out the country's next step in lifting COVID rules means all part of Scotland, not currently in level 0, we move to that restriction level from Monday, 19th of July, and that is tomorrow. However, Nicola Sturgeon said the planned easing had to be modified due to higher infection numbers caused by the Delta variant of coronavirus. Ms. Sturgeon said sensible precautions are to be maintained while the vaccine program continues. She said she still hopes Scotland could move beyond level zero from 9th of August, the point at which the government aims to get rid of most restrictions. Saying COVID remains a threat, Ms. Sturgeon said a gradual approach stands the best chance of minimizing further health harm and loss of lives. People have asked what will happen to the schools or with the schools. There was no decision yet on whether children and teenagers will have to isolate in the coming school year. Tens of thousands of pupils were at home at any one time during last term, most because they were in contact with someone with the virus, not because they actually had caught coronavirus themselves. In England, young people will not have to isolate when they return to school. And Nicola Sturgeon says they are working on a plan for Scotland, adding that a decision on what will happen in schools will be set out well ahead of the new term when the JCVI, an independent group of experts who advise the government health departments, makes a decision on vaccinating younger people. Now, our people have also asked about face coverings. Is it going away? Is it staying? Right from the report here, making the announcement, the First Minister said the wearing of face coverings for everyone over the age of 5 will continue for some time to come, adding that it will offer protection to those who are vulnerable who previously had to shield. Noting that Scotland's approach to face mask is different to that in England, where the wearing of a face covering will become advised but no longer a rule. Nicola Sturgeon said we shouldn't lift important restrictions to make our lives easier and then expect the public to take responsibility for doing the right thing anyway, and meeting with other people. But before I take that section, I want to take what is level zero. In level zero, up to 8 people from up to 4 households can meet indoors at home, compared to 6 people from 3 households in levels 1 and 2. 2, up to 10 people from up to 4 households can meet in a public indoor space. 3, coming as number point 3, and up to 15 people from up to 15 households can meet outdoors, whether in a private garden or public space. 4, children under 12 already don't count towards the total number of people. From Monday, that is tomorrow, they will not count towards the total number from different households either. Coming at number 5, masks will have to be worn in cafes and restaurants when not seated or eating. At number 6, in level 0, up to 200 people can attend weddings and funerals. Coming at number 7, soft play centers can open. At number 8, there will still be limits on the size of event and stadium attendances, but this will increase outdoors to 2,000 seated and 1,000 standing and indoors to 400. And coming last but not the least, at number 9, a gradual return to office work was due to be part of the move to level 0, but this has now been put back to 9 August. And those are all the key points for level 0 of the restriction. Now, moving on to the questions about meeting people. Obviously, we've mentioned some of that in those points that have been rolled out, but I will take it specifically according to the report here. In indoor public spaces, social distancing rules will shorten from 2 meters to 1 meter, and will apply for people meeting up from different households. A limit on the size of outdoor group gatherings will be kept at 15 for precautionary reasons. Under 12s do not count towards the total number of people meeting outside. Ms. Sturgeon said there will be no requirement to distance within these groups of 15, as meeting outdoors is less risky than indoors. But she said for the next 3 weeks at least, there will be a requirement for 1 meter distancing between different groups of 15 who are outside of the same time, at the same time. And moving on to the questions about isolation after traveling from other countries. The First Minister also says from next Monday, self-isolation will no longer be required for people arriving from countries on the amber list that include the US and most of Europe. This is provided they are fully vaccinated through a UK vaccination program and take a COVID test on the second day after arrival. We will continue to take a precautionary approach to the inclusion of countries on the amber list. She said, adding that we continue to advise against non-essential overseas travels at this time. And on people's questions about when will restriction completely end, the First Minister has this to say. Ms. Sojourn says there are positive and that the current wave appears to have peaked, meaning cases will start to fall and the vaccination program is working well. While cases seems to have leveled off, numbers are still high, she said, while virtually all adults over 60 have had their first vaccine injection. The First Minister says she plans to move away from level 0 with a lifting for almost all restriction by 9 August. Let's quickly check how these tallies or differs from that of England. And I'll just take it one after the other. And this is really about England now. From July, England will lift most of its legal pandemic restrictions. The move will usher in stage 4 of the country's route out of lockdown, despite plans for all rules to be lifted tomorrow, that is the 19th of July. The government has increasingly adopted a more cautious tone as we approach the so-called Freedom Day. So that's set for tomorrow as well. But what rules still remain in place from tomorrow? And this is England. Trips abroad will continue to be restricted to limit the spread of variants entering the United Kingdom. Travelers from UK will have to follow the restrictions around international travel as outlined in the government's traffic light travel system. But from tomorrow, all those who have been fully vaccinated and those under 18 will no longer have to quarantine if they return from any amber list country, with the exception of France, because it is suffering from a spike in COVID cases attributed to the concerning Beta variant. Right, so that's one of the key differences. One of them, just like Scotland, in the down south, people will still be allowed in with no requirements for quarantine so far they are fully vaccinated, even if they are returning from the amber list countries, with the exception of France. Of course, in England also we have the track and trace. The controversial track and trace system will still be enforced. For those people who don't know what that is, when you come into the country and you are meant to be on the quarantine, there's an app and there's a checkup by NHS to ensure that you are still you are in your quarantine period, and that is just to ensure that people don't go out within that period of quarantine. So that will still continue in England. I mean, that's not been mentioned here, but we know that most of the airlines that comes into UK comes through Heathrow and the other airports. So those who have been in contact or traced or pinged by the NHS app, indicating that they have come into contact with someone who has tested positive for the virus, will be required to self-isolate. The rules on self-isolating as a contact will only change for people who are fully vaccinated on August 16, according to the government's current plans. Those not fully vaccinated will still be required to isolate if they are contacted. everyone will need to isolate if they test positive for the virus to protect themselves and others. And of course, on face covering, and that is one of the areas where Scotland and England differs. Uh, in England, there is no law. It's just an advice that people need to put on face covering, while it is still a rule here in Scotland. So let's quickly take this face coverings, and this is under um, England rules. Despite the lifting of the legal requirement for face coverings to be worn on transport services and in indoor public places from tomorrow, messaging over the need to wear a mask has been confusing. The new guideline says business should encourage and recommend customers wear masks on their premises. However, it remains unclear as to whether businesses and transport services will be able to legally enforce this guideline. Many shops, such as Tesco and Waterstones, are asking customers to continue to wear face coverings, whilst many public transport providers, such as All Transport for London Services and the trams in Manchester, will require passengers to continue to wear masks from July 19. Brittany Ferries, British Airways, EasyJet, Virgin, and Ryanair have said face covering will be required to travel with them. England's Chief Medical Officer, Chris Whitty, and Chief Scientific Advisor, Sir Patrick Fallons, have both said they will continue to wear face coverings as England emerges from COVID restriction. Now, let's come round to the public's view about the differences between Scotland and England. Right, I've got a piece here where people were able to say their mind on the restrictions on both sides, the lifting of restriction on both sides, starting from tomorrow. And we've got Lord 1683X. This is good. England should be doing it like this. And we've got UI 9892735. I think it's great that Scotland's are easing restrictions slowly. I think England should be doing the same, because otherwise cases will just go up and up and up. So Scotland's idea of easing the restrictions slowly is a great idea. Squishmallow 23 have this to say: lucky. Today, my dad got a positive test, and I'm really upset because I won't be able to give my present to my teacher. I know it sounds dumb, but still, I also wanted to see my friends again. And coming from Pineapple Bookworms 123, this is good for Scotland. I'm in England, so it doesn't really matter for me. But for you in Scotland, I'm happy for you. Olivia Candy coming up here with, I think, the leaders in British society should gently ease lockdown instead of just saying you are free on the 19th of July. So Scotland keeping some restrictions is very good. But I live in England, so I hope cases don't go up really fast, because lockdown is all gone. So I think England should do the same as Scotland. And of course, we've got Purple Chocolate Lord. This is a really good point. And then we're coming at swimming underscore dolphins. The good thing about Scotland is that they are keeping mask compulsory and getting over fives in one. England should do the same. Apart from the face mask, kids under 12 should count towards the rule of 6, because they spread it. It is not fair on teenagers who are missing out on socializing. So it's only fair. And UI 9592849 says, no, I live in Scotland, and they should not be doing it. They should do this when kids are beginning to get vaccinated. I know my family are going to stay act as if we're in lockdown. Right? So that's the public opinion about COVID restriction, both across England and, of course, Scotland. As usual, people will have different views And of course, you see there, some are already tired of staying in the house. They want to go out to meet family and friends. So could you kindly drop your message for us or your views about those restrictions, and we'll take them on. Remember, we are on this program on Saturdays and Sundays, Saturdays starting from 3 p.m. and of course on Sunday starting from 6 p.m. Thank you for joining us, and then we'll catch up with you on Saturday.
Oh. OYTV.
Line ho, uyu line lelo mana wanzeru. Line ho,
uyu rinero mwana wanzeru. Kukacha mama wa amatengazaje kusesa bakomo pamaivaje.
kukacha mama
Early morning
amatengazaje
kusesa bakomo lamaivaje.
magolo
aline
amuyamikira
akuti rinerero mwana wanzeru.
magolo aline amuyamikira
akuti rinerero mwana wanzeru. Line uyu rinerero mwana wanzeru.
Tinde
mwana wanzeru.
agire gogo wana madingo namuyamikira kuti na madingo mwana wanzeru. Agire gogo wana madingo namuyamikira
kuti na madingo mwana
wanzeru.
simukuna mago
Talizina
malota ine bambo wanga tandisienda
salandeka. Talizina
mweni malota ine bambo wanga tamwalira
salandeka. Gondo mama Gondo une mama mwe Gondo mama chalamanda
tafera mwenda we. Kondo mama kondo une mama mwe. Kondo mama chalamanda utafera mwenda we.